Same. You're very welcome back. You're watching the Daily Rundown with me, Fiona Fox. Now, according to a Conservative committee, the new leader of the Conservatives should be in place by 2nd of September. Originally, David Cameron said he hoped to have a replacement by October. So far, the leading lights of the Conservative Party are likely to want to stand. We will find out on Wednesday who is officially up for the job. The likely front runners will be George Osborne, Theresa May, Boris Johnson or Michael Gove. Any particular favourites at this stage?
None of them.
Do you hate them all, Nina?
I don't hate them, not personally. I've not met them. But George is terrifying. I mean, he looks like he sleeps in a coffin, doesn't he? And
I can tell you, think that's where he's been this weekend.
He's been in his coffin. He's not a man. The man's a zombie. He's the undead. We can't have him in charge. Theresa May, she's all right, sat on the fence a bit, didn't she, through this whole thing, biding her time. I think that was a political move on her part. Who were the others? Johnson, Krusty the Clown. No way. I have a terrifying vision of the future.
Some fabulous memes going around with, I mean, if we look at the light side of it, with Boris Johnson starring him and Trump.
Yeah.
Have there been similarities? That's physical anyway.
Yeah, physical and mentally. I mean, I'd say Boris Johnson is a very intelligent man. I think that's what's terrifying about him. He's also lovable and affable, and if I met him in a pub, I'd probably want to give him a cuddle, but I don't want him in charge. He's like your crazy uncle.
That's what leaves Gove.
Gove was very pro-Leave. I think Gove's an intelligent man. In a way, and I wouldn't vote for any of them, I think maybe Gove had the clearest vision of what to do if we were going to leave, so maybe he should be in charge of pressing the big Article 50 button.
The big red one. What about you, David? What was your reaction to Cameron's proposal to step down anyway? I mean, what was your reaction to Cameron's
well, you know what my reaction to his resignation was, but it was stupid to go at this time. But now that it's gone, we should have a leadership contest right away. So we started it right away. It's a question of ending it right away. So they're starting it this week. There's going to be Boris Johnson, obviously. Theresa May's obviously standing. Osborne won't, I think, because he knows he doesn't stand a chance in winning. That the party, because ultimately goes to the party members, and they will not elect him. He's had a terrible year in which he couldn't even get his budgets right and was sort of voted down by the House of Lords.
I love that.
So he doesn't have any political judgment. Whereas Boris Johnson had actually said, don't mess with the tax credits. And he was right, ahead of time. There's a lot of people named like Stephen Crabb who are horrible people. But I would say that if the benefits of Boris Johnson is he is probably the most intelligent. Him and Gove are the most intelligent ministers. Boris Johnson's more ruthless. Actually, you think he's not? He's an extremely ruthless man, unlike Cameron, who is more like John Major.
I have never ever, sorry to interrupt, thought I would see the day where I would be looking at a Conservative Prime Minister resigning and feeling genuinely upset.
Really?
I was like, come back, David, don't do this,
now,
don't leave us now.
Not necessarily based on your actual love for David Cameron. Is it because of the alternative, or is it because...
Yeah, because I think as much as I didn't want a Conservative government in charge, I think Cameron's been a moderate. I think he has repealed some of the more cutting things that George Osborne wanted to put through, even in the most recent budget. And I think we were in slightly safer hands. I think we're in slightly more extreme hands on either side now. We've got the Labour Party that's imploding. We don't know what's going to happen there. And then on the other side, we've got these quite extreme men in the shape of Boris Johnson.
Again, I'm going to defend Boris Johnson because he's actually probably more at the centre than Cameron. Cameron's a bit left centre. Boris Johnson's at the centre. And he has a sense of what the voters want.
But should we always just play into what the voters want?
No, he has look, if you try and just take away the welfare state, what would happen? There'd be a revolution. We're not spending £90 billion a year more than we bringing in taxes. There's a real crisis that we're facing, and we've been facing since 2005. After paying off all the national debts beforehand, when Blair jacked up government spending from just under 400 billion to 700 billion in 10 years, and it's only like 740 billion. We've kept the lid on it, the Conservatives, but there's a real crisis because we're not bringing the amount of tax in.
But that's an ideological argument as well.
You can't go on printing 100 billion a year from the Bank of England because those bonds, the interest has to be paid on those bonds. Your children will be paying that. You can't print money or you end up in Rhodesia or Zimbabwe or Berlin in the 1920s. And at the moment, we're printing a lot of money every year, and you can do that for so long, and then when the interest rates go up, the interest rates payments, because it's the taxpayers who buy the bonds, and many times it's the pension funds who buy the bonds. It's not bad having those bonds, but to imagine an unlimited pot of money is impossible. So that's one thing that has to be sorted out. One thing about Boris Johnson is he will keep a sensible economic policy, but he will also try and be a bit fair to those who are in need. I think he's got a greater sense of trying to not create a bit more equality, because we've never had an equal society in the world, but having more equality within society, that's one of his aims. And for a Conservative, obviously he thinks it should be created through economic growth, but he doesn't believe you can just pull the rug out on people, which is what would have had to happen if Cameron doesn't either.
I just haven't heard the rhetoric at all of that coming from the Johnson camp. Maybe I've not had my hands over my ears, but I haven't heard anybody.
He is a moderate.
I didn't hear anything to do with social justice in this campaign.
Well, it's not. You did see his speech at the conference last year that he made in Manchester last year?
I think he says what people want to hear.
Well, anyway, so Boris Johnson would get the centre of the party, so he could keep the right wing and the so-called Heathite wing, called the Thatcherite and Heathite wing, the two opposites, united as one party. So Osborne and what's his name, Cameron, they're on the Heathite wing.
We've forgotten him already.
Michael Gove and like the head of the 1922 committee, Graham Brady, will be seen to be on the Thatcherite wing. So I think he keeps the balance best of all. I think Theresa May might do it too, but I think Boris has more imagination than the others and could bring in the team to negotiate this EU thing better than the others.
I think a lot of people who would naturally vote for Boris would be very surprised to hear that he's a moderate.
You feel that's not what they would feel he represented, other?
Not at all.
Really?
Yeah, not
I see a completely different Boris from you. I mean, I'm in more of the Liam Fox wing of the party, and that's the man I would like to see as the leader. But it won't happen. And I think Boris Johnson represents a sort of more acceptable face of the centre Heathite wing of the party, because.
But the Conservative Party have a long history of not putting into government to that position their favourite, don't they? My understanding. So the favourite at the moment is Boris, and it's usually then someone comes up like John Major did from out of nowhere.
I know. Look at the dreadful government we got with John Major.
Yeah, but they won't necessarily go for any of the big names.
So you feel like it might be a surprise?
I think it could be a surprise.
Well, mystery.
The problem is I don't see the people. Some of the other people are junior ministers. I don't see that they're quite up to the job for doing it, because I don't rate many of the politicians we've got.
I'm laughing at the Labour Party at the minute. I mean, literally, they're offering me a job.
I was going to say, while you're on that, let's bob over to that actually. We'll bob over to that third story just because you bring it up, and it is actually linked. Obviously, Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn. He's lost.
It's terrible.
What's the terrible? Nina, this is a serious news programme. Please, keep it together. I think we're up to almost 30 of his party have resigned at this point, have they?
Literally, he's in a room with one other going, right, what we'll do is I'll take that ministry, that ministry, you take that. He's got nobody left to do any of the jobs.
No, it's not that long. It's September, landslide victory was from. Why is this all turned around? Do you think that this is a kind of an opportunistic move on the Labour Party?
I absolutely think
on the back of Brexit.
Night of the long knives. They were waiting for him. They were waiting for this opportunity. He's not been liked by the party, even though he's got an overwhelming mandate from the membership. He's not liked by the party, and here's a perfect time to wade in and say, look, all your fault, lacklustre campaign. And they're dropping like flies. I mean, they're really making it look untenable now for him to stay.
And that petition, obviously, for no confidence going on in the party as well. What do you think, David? You talked about Jeremy Corbyn a few times in here.
I'm not a fan at all. I think he's a terrible man.
Oh.
And
no fisticuffs.
whereas you take Michael Foot, who was a left-wing leader in the early 80s. I think he was an absolutely admirable man. But I think Michael Foot was patriotic. I think Jeremy Corbyn could move to Venezuela, which is falling apart as we talk about it, or supporting Palestinian terrorists and that sort of thing. But I do think that this is a plot to get rid of him. And because the MPs in Parliament, who used to elect the leaders, don't agree with who the party elected as leader. And the problem is, when you have this thing, you cannot be the leader of the party if the MPs won't work with you. I don't think he's compromised. He hired this Seamus Milne, who's a Marxist, and he hired another guy. He even hired a guy who ran for Parliament against the Labour Party as one of his advisors recently too. So, and there's the Momentum Group, although I did meet a member of the Momentum Group. They're like almost Stalinist thing. So he's alienated. Remember, the Labour Party is a coalition of different types too, just like the Conservative Party.
Every party is a coalition.
But Jeremy Corbyn is no Aneurin Bevan. He's not a man of that stature.
But he's the first leader of that party we've had for a very long time that has stood for something rather than nothing, and I think that's what the membership got behind. They find him very authentic.
Let me just hold you on that one, Dylan. We'll go for a break. I'll come back with your point, with your reply. I was going to say rebuttal, without reply. We're going for a second break of the evening. Don't go anywhere. Lots more news and our interviews coming up as well. See you soon.